I'm going to start the webinar from the kind of the more options is our address book. So from your address book, this is where you'll want to create your vendors. So make sure you create who you buy your corks, your capsules, your glass from, and then also who you ship wine to. So to create new vendors by clicking Add Organization, this is where you can create those new vendors, and if put in their email, their address, and vendor, and if they're also a carrier. Also, if you sell wine to them, make sure you create your customers being your Costco, your Trader Joe's, or different warehouses you might ship vintrace or ship your wines to, or other wineries. If you do ship wine to other wineries, please make sure, like if I have Cal Poly here, say they're also a customer and a carrier. If you do, ship wine, sell wine to Cal Poly, on the advanced page, this is where you can put Cal Poly's bonds. So I can say DW-CA-2012 and hit save. So now Cal Poly has a bond number attached, and then also making sure, we're going to call this 123 Grand Avenue, SLO, California, 93, I think it's 401. Save. So now I've updated Cal Poly's address and with the bond. So by attaching that bond information, that will print on your bill of lading. All right, so that is the address book. If you guys do not have the inventory module, that means you will not have this little inventory box. If it is something you are interested, please email sales@vintrace. You can also email me, hillary@vintrace.com, to see about adding that inventory module. So if you do not have the inventory module, what you will do to bottle your wine is do a bulk dispatch. So you will go to bulk dispatch to, oops, that's the bulk intake, to a bulk dispatch to dispatch out your wines. I need to open up the screenshot because my database does have it. From your screenshot, from my screenshot, from your bulk dispatch, you'll choose dispatch type, and it'll either be bottling, remove, tax paid, or bottling, transfer, and bonds. So that means this only works if you do not have the inventory module. So if you do have the inventory module, ignore this part. But if you do not have the inventory module, you will complete a bulk dispatch, and choosing just bottling means you're bottling the wines and leaving them on your bond. Bottling and removing tax paid, vintrace will update your 702 right away with the 100 gallons you bottled, and you remove those 100 gallons tax paid right away. Or bottling, transfer, and bond means you bottle those 100 gallons, so that'll report on your TTB report, and it'll show on the TTB report you transferred it. In bonds, it'll also show 100 gallons transfer of bottled wine. And then I recommend you would choose your bottling, who you're dispatching it to. You would enter your tank, your gallons that you bottled, the details. I always recommend the number of cases, gallons bottled, and then shipping reference could be how many cases, what SKU it was, all of that. Okay, I just wanted to start there in case anybody's joining that does not have the bottling module. Now the rest of the webinar will not work for them. Okay, so starting in winery setup, this is where you need to create all of your bottling supplies. I'm still getting used to this new winery setup. So from here, this is where you have all of your closures, dry goods, bottling, glass. So if we go into glass, make sure when you are creating glass, you have a couple ways to create glass. This can be a single bottle of glass. This could be a 6-pack of glass, a 12-pack of glass, single cans, kegs, any size bottle. So vintrace lets you tell vintrace the size of your bottle. So here's an example of a Magnum. I've got my BOT, my size, my glass. All bottles are units. All empty glass are set as units. Category bottles, and the most important part is the size. How many milliliters fit in this bottle? So with this being a Magnum, is 1,500. If I go into a single bottle, so this is I'm buying more bulk glass. Again, it's units. and size is 750. If you always bottle into cases, you buy glass already prepackaged, so you think in cases, then you would create your glass as a case. Again, still units, and your size would be 9,000 milliliters. So this is creating a 9-liter case. Depending on, again, if you bottle 500 cases in 10 bottles, but you only record 500 cases, then you are a good candidate to create your glass as a case. If you want to record your bottling as 500 cases and 9 bottles, you need to bring your glass in as a single bottle. And I'll show you guys this. You'll bottle it into singles, and then you'll manufacture it into cases. So then you have 500 cases and 9 bottles of inventory. Or if you ever plan to what we call disassemble those 12 packs, always into 6 packs, or disassemble the 12 packs into holiday packs or different, 2 reds, 2 whites, 2 rosés. By having that single bottle, you have that ability, or shipping out a couple for tastings, competitions, things like that. So that is creating your glass, creating your like corks and capsules. So here's like a cork, my 2020 cork, again, units, stock category capsules, enable batch tracking. This is if you want vintrace tracking your bioterrorism lot code, cork, anything that touches the wine. We do recommend, but vintrace does not require it. Anything that does not touch wine, like labels, capsules, things like that, boxes, you do not need to enable batch tracking. And if you are using client billing and this is a billable item, make sure you are checking billable item. Okay, so that's kind of creating your kind of materials, corks, capsules, glass. And then you'll want to go down to wine items. And this is where you can either in advance create your case good or your single bottle, or when you write the bottling work order, you can create that package item in the middle of bottling. So in advance, if I go to configure and say I want to do a 12 pack, this is where I can say this is me, my 20 rosé Paso, and this is my 2020 13% Paso Robles rosé. And then stock category, this is part of bottled wine. Tax class is not over 14. And alcohol content, I typically recommend what the alcohol on the label says. So the label says 13.1, and you do not need to enable batch tracking here because all of your individual components will have the batch tracking. But if you are bottling stuff that's for like a non-vintage red wine or something that you bottle multiple times a year, I do typically recommend turning on the batch tracking to track your bottling dates as a lot code for that packaging run. All righty. And then, so we've got a rosé, then we can add, our cork. So we're gonna add our 2020 cork. It takes 12 corks. Then we're gonna add our glass. So I want my 750 case. So by choosing the case, I only need 1 case of glass because we create this as 9,000 milliliters, a 9-liter case. So we only need 1 case of glass. Then we need a label. Then we're going to do back label. Takes 12 of those. Add front label. If you do put a front label on the front of your box, then it would take 13 labels. And then the most important thing that I have not added yet is my rosé. When you go to type in 20 rosé, again, if you are creating this in advance, vintrace is automatically hiding your bulk wine. So do make sure you uncheck your bulk wine, and then it's a 9-liter case. And so now I've included all of my items. if we are, say, creating a shiner, say we haven't got our labels in yet. So we can create a single bottle shiner. So this is me for my 19 cab JX2, 2019 cab, single category, and this is where I'm creating the category shiner, so it kind of keeps it separate. I don't remember. You can leave the tax class blank. Once you actually bottle it, then it'll apply it. So here is my wine. So 19 CS JX2. Again, uncheck hide bulk wine. And this is again 0.75 liters. And then our bottle. So here's our single bottle and one single bottle, and then cork. If you don't wish to enter in bill of materials, at minimum, vintrace just needs the wine. You do not need to add bottles, corks, capsules. At minimum, vintrace just needs the wine. Once you add the wine in, vintrace will automatically fill in the tax class for you. So here's an example of a shiner. Okay, so then we'll save this. So that's kind of creating your bill of materials for your packaging items. You can create these in advance or wait till you've create the bottling work order and you can create it at that screen as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is actually go into more options. Pre-create, if you guys are not using purchase orders or you do not have this screen, this is a user permission. So if this is something you want to try out, make sure you do get your local vintrace admin to give you purchase order permissions. So creating a new purchase order, you would say who your vendor is. We're going to say MA Silva. What we're going to get corks. Add a line. Our case, and we can say one more. /750. I did the case, and I'll do the singles. Okay, so then how many we ordered? We're going to say we ordered 10,000. All right, and then you can set in price. So corks will say 20 cents. This is a case, so say we paid $12.50, and bottles is $1.75. All right, and then we can save this. And so you can also say for here, you've got your vendor, delivery date, say it's supposed to come in on the 15th, the status, new or approved, and then not fulfilled, and then what winery, and then if they've already told you freight, you can put that in. If you don't know the freight yet, once you go to receive that purchase order, then you can enter in that freight. All right, we hit save. Now say the items have showed up, so you're ready to receive. So you don't have to create purchase orders in vintrace. If you have not created a purchase order, or you can go Operation Receive. If you did not enter a purchase order, you would skip the purchase order box since we did just create a purchase order. We can click on it. It'll bring up our cork and our bottles. We'll say who the carrier was. We're going to say MA Silva also delivered it. If they didn't bring everything you ordered, if we change this to say 9,000, it will give you a warning and it will change the status of this purchase order as part fulfilled. Next step is choosing where are you putting this. So you can either put this in the same location as other items or create a new location. So I'm just putting everything in the cellar. And then freight costs, so say they charge us $100 of freight. And then by now and save up today's date and today's time, you also have the ability to scan and upload documents that came with that shipment. And this is giving you a warning that did not meet your requirements. You ordered 10,000, only got 9,000, that's okay. And then corks have batch tracking, so we need to make sure we add the lot codes of the corks. And then now we can save this. All right, so that is receiving in your inventory. Also, since we are here in our inventory, if I pull up my bottles, say you are taking inventory. So this is where you can take a physical inventory. So, before bottling season gets going, you can run a report to do a physical inventory. You can give this lovely sheet to your seller to go count and double check that you do have X number of units of these items. The enhanced one I really like because it doesn't give the current number. The other option is our original, and this one is nice. If I'm counting, I want to know how many I am looking for. Once you have had your seller or yourself go count all of your inventory, this is where you can enter a physical inventory. You want to make sure you pick the date, because if I said yesterday we counted, those bottles and corks that we just received 30 seconds ago will have zero inventory, because as of yesterday we had zero inventory. So the date is very important to double check. From here, if we actually end up having 16,000 bottles, vintrace will say we're taking a 544 bottle gain. Make sure you check with your accountant is what do they want to do with the cost? If I say keep cost at, that means these extra 544 bottles will be still received as 47 cents per bottle. If I do not check that, then the cost per bottle will actually go down, because now you have more bottles and the cost is the same. So it will decrease your price per unit. So please make sure you ask if you do need to keep that cost at that price, that you do tick those boxes. If you did not find this bottle, did not count it, you can exit out so it won't update that inventory was taken against that product. And any losses or stock takes that you take, you can run a report later based on that information. If you are taking inventory on case goods that are damaged or destroyed, you will want to make sure you are choosing like a TTB reason. If you are dumping back to bolt, breakage, destroy, things like that. If you're unsure, please contact support or talk to your compliance person about how it needs to be reported on your TTB report. And if you guys are dumping to bulk, that's the term the TTB calls it. When you take an already bottled wine, you dump it back to bulk to rebottle into, again, those tasting sizes, 100 mils, 150 mils. Please reach out to us and we can walk you through that process. We are working on an online help guide that will kind of step by step what you need to do. Okay, so let me update so next we're going to start doing is packaging. So if I pull up one of my wines, so my 20 rosé, 20 rosé, I want this tank here. So before you can bottle wine, you do want to make sure your wine is already bonded. So you have declared the wine. Wine has to be declared before you can bottle it. Also, a few things on the new interface when you are looking at, say, labs, making sure you can chart your lovely analysis. Seeing your additive history, you can also, sorry, my webinar is in the way, drop down and see additives by lot codes and things like that. The packaging tab is coming, but you can still see your fruit tab and your costing. So we can see currently this wine is $17 is fruit cost, but the total cost is $18.87 per gallon. So now we're going to bottle this wine. operations packaging. You can also write this as a work order. So we can say how many gallons we're bottling. So if you are planning on bottling like magnums and then 750s, you know, in 375s, we recommend starting with your smallest unit, meaning the smallest amount of cases or bottles you bottled. So if you are doing magnums, say we only did 50 gallons of magnums. If we go to the stock item, we hit the little magnifying glass, it's going to default to my 750 because we've already created that. If this is obviously incorrect, we want to do the magnum. This is where you can create your stock item on the fly. So instead of creating them in advance through winery setup, as you write the work order, you can create your single ×1. We call this my 20 rosé 1.5 liter. And then stock category will be bottled wine. And then a magnum is 1.5 liters. And then I'm not going to include cork. You know, I'm going to include the minimum being the wine. So in a perfect world, 50 gallons would equal 21 single bottles. Say we only bottled 20. We hit the bottom calculator. vintrace will calculate out, whoops. It's still actually verifying on the old one. So if I do 50 and I recalculate, it'll say in a perfect world, 50 gallons equals 126 single bottles. We actually got 120. Then I re-hit the bottom calculator. We're taking a 2.4 gallon loss due to bottling. And then route 2, where are we putting this? In the cellar. And you want to make sure if you are putting this in a bonded location, not a tax paid location, because that will automatically update on your TTV report that you've bottled and removed it tax paid. Okay, and then now and save. So that's bottling to, say, a magnum. And then this is client billing. So if you do have client billing, those pop-up charges. If you don't and you're curious about it, please let us know and we can tell you more about our client billing module. So then if I go back to packaging, still on this rosé, say we bottled 500 gallons. When we click this magnifying glass, now 2 options are going to come up because this same wine is linked to both the Magnum bottle and the 750. So we'll go the 750 and then we'll pull in our corks, labels, and bottles. And again, in a perfect world, 500 gallons will equal 210. You can make any adjustments that we really only got 205. Re-hit the bottom calculator. It'll calculate out any gallons lost and your total units used. So again, where are we putting this? And then if you are, say you purchased 2,500 labels, so we only bottled 2,400, so that means, say hypothetically there was no more wine of this rosé left, then we want to scrap the other 40 labels. By scrapping the other 40 labels here, this is removing them from inventory and applying that cost for those labels to this wine. You can also add cost by adding extra costs. So if you did hire a bottling line and it took you 3 hours to bottle this rosé and they charge you $5.50 an hour, then here is your total for that rosé. And then once I now and save this, I need to give a lost reason due to bottling. And then if you did make any additions to the wine before packaging, you can add that in here, or any documents as well. Now and save. Now I've completed that bottling. And so now you can see now we currently only have 325 gallons left of this wine. And looking at the history or the job tab, once it's refreshed, you'll be able to see the 2 packagings. Okay, so next is packaging a shiner. So that is in tank T25. 06. Okay, so we pull up our wine that we created for a shiner. So we can go operation packaging. Again, all these can be written as work orders. Say we bottle 1,000 gallons. We click the magnifying glass. You can see we have two options that come up. We have AJ's 19 cab or we have 19 CS. So if I click on that, this is choosing our shiner. That's just including glass and cork. And then this cork is turning red because of two reasons. Either A, you don't have enough corks, or B, you have two different lot codes. So it wants to know what lot codes you want to use. If you are using up the rest of bag A, then you can add a line and use up the rest of bag 2. So then vintrace will have in history that 300 corks were this lot code and the rest of them were that lot code. And then again, updating for any losses due to bottling. And now in save, we'll put today's date and today's time. Alrighty, so now we've bottled that shiner. So now we need to manufacture. So that's kind of the bottling module. If you do have any questions, please let me know. With manufacturing, I have gotten some questions lately. So if you go into our inventory module, 19 CS, here is our shiner, or I could all right, here we go. So now I've opened up my shiner. So you can see here's your cork, bottle, and glass. All right, Maria, am I unfrozen now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so once we click on our shiner bottle, from here, you can see if we go, you can see the list of materials, you can see costing, your fruit costs, and obviously your material cost isn't including those labels or that second bottling cost. So from here, we can go operation, actually, I guess new, I think we can actually go from operations here, you can manufacture. So from this screen, we want to go manufacture. We want to choose our stock items. We want to create what this bottle is going to be now that it's labeled. So we can either label it back into a single bottle, or we can manufacture it into a case. So this will be my 19 CS JX2 case. Stock category is now going to be bottled wine. And then my first item on the bill of materials is going to be that single bottle. So here's your ×1. How many single bottles make a case? 12. Now we can add in our front label. We can add in our back label. You can also add in any boxes, any dividers. Oops, I'm getting a little too excited here. Any capsules, so any other items that were added from that shiner on, you can now add in those items. And what this does is it's going to pull both costing and inventory for this item. And the tax class, you can see by pulling in that single bottle, vintrace knows the tax class is 14 to 16. Once I hit save, now vintrace will say how many cases did you bottle? So we can just say we bottled, say 80. That'll pull how many single bottles you bottled. You can see we have currently 5,000. So obviously I'm making all this stuff up, so I could say we actually bottled, say 420 would be using up all of them. So 400 or 5,040, if I click little forklift, that means we're leaving 7 bottles behind. If any bottles broke, this is where you can scrap and say we broke 2, and that will record on your TTB report that 2 bottles were damaged during the repackaging manufacturing. And then again, route 2, where are you putting these? So again, making sure you are choosing a bonded area. Unless if you need it to be tax paid, then you're choosing a tax paid area. So that area is very important. Make sure you're choosing the correct location you're putting this. So this is manufacturing a shiner. So if we go now and save, now we've manufactured this. So if I hit search, you can see that we have 420 cases and 7 single bottles of shiners. You guys need to be aware of, you can manufacture mix packs, or single bottles could go into 3 packs. So when you create that manufacturing item, you could have, say, a 3 pack, and you could add in like my 19, say, Chardonnay, and this is where you can also have the 20 Rosé. So you can have a mix, like single bottle. So these are cases. So you'll want to make sure those items are single bottles, not case bottles. But then you could manufacture into your 3 holiday packs, or if you are doing tasting room kits and you're bottling stuff into like 375s or 100 ml samples, you could have all the single bottles here for those holiday kits. Or tasting room, Zoom tasting kits. Okay, next, so that's kind of your inventory. Now if you need to ship out and do a dispatch, so say you want to dispatch out a handful of wines, so you can go operation dispatch, or you can also create a work order. So if you want to create a work order, so if I go to the clipboard here, create a work order, you want to create a manual inventory note. The inventory note will give you a work order for the seller to put that case or that pallet together, and will also generate what I call a pre-bill of lading. So we'll click here, let me zoom my way, dispatch, and this is where you're choosing who are you going to. We're going to Cal Poly. Oops. Cal Poly puts in the address, dispatch type, we're going to go remove tax paid. We're going to go 20 Rosé. Are we doing the magnums or are we doing the cases? We're doing 24 cases. You can add a line, 19CH. We're doing another 24 of those. And then you can keep adding lines of everything that you're dispatching out as well. Make sure you do tick this box, print bill of lading. This will create a pre-bill of lading. If you are using vintrace for sales invoicing, by selecting this invoice, it'll autofill in everything that is linked to that sales order, that sales invoice. By adding this to inventory, this will create the work order and generate the bill of lading. So here is that work order. So it's going to tell the seller it's going to Cal Poly, being removed tax paid, and what the number of, how many cases of each item, and then the total number of cases that's being shipped out. And then also popped up is the bill of lading. So with your bill of lading, make sure you've got it from vintrace to Cal Poly. You can see the number of cases. If you want to include any lab analysis, we can say none. Do we want to include any lab analysis? The composition details, how many decimal places you want it to go out. Say I only want 2, and I don't want each item on its own page. And then when I say okay, this will generate your bill of lading. So here is our vintrace. going to Cal Poly, remove tax paid, bill of lading number 302, and number of cases, number of gallons. So if you do have your warehouses wanting specific information, this is where, for this example, I had 13% alcohol, Paso Robles Rosé, and then this is showing tax class not over 16%. And then a spot for everyone to sign. And then once you complete that work order, it will print another bill of lading, or if anything changed, you ship more or less, you can change that on the work order. Also, another option is moving your case goods. So if you are moving them from, say, your bonded area to your tax paid area or storage area at your winery, you want to make sure you go Operation Move. And this is where you can move, say, my 20 rosé. We want to move 50 cases from our cellar to our tax paid room and save. And then you can also add a line, so then we can move multiple items at the same time. So I can also do my Chardonnay. We're also moving 50 of those, again, from the current location to our tax paid location. And then putting the date, now and save. And it will give you this lovely warning. If you do not get this warning, then you're not moving it between a tax paid area and a bond area, or you will get a warning that you do not have permission to do this. That means you do not have permission to move your wines in bond in your database. So now I'm done. So now if I look at my 20 rosé, you can see I have my 20 rosé magnums, and then I have 155 cases that are currently in the cellar, and then I have 50 cases that are currently in a tax paid room, and you can see the price is still the same at $72 a case. Alrighty, so next I'm going to go into is a few reports. So from reports under inventory, first is our inventory stock report. You do want to make sure you convert this into, say, a CSV, and I'm just going to choose bottled wine, and then I hit generate. Oops, nope, I want to break out costing. Make sure if you are dealing with costing that you do have permission for costing, and costing is, for a lot of these reports, it's a checkbox, so make sure you are checking the box, break out costing. Hit generate, then this will give you an Excel file of all of your, in this case, my bottled wines with the costing breakout. So here is that costing breakout. You can see my current quantity, committed, on order, and available. So if you are using the sales orders or sales invoice in vintrace, as you write sales orders, it will commit your case goods, or for normal additives, as you write work orders, vintrace will commit glass, corks, capsules, additives as well. And then on order, if you are using purchase orders or writing a work order that you're receiving in corks, capsules, glass, that will show here on order. And then vintrace will say what's currently available. Committed will also show if you've written a work order to dispatch that out. So committed works both for a sales order or a work order that you're dispatching it out. Okay, so now we have our SKU. As we scroll all the way over, you'll see your price per unit, which could be, again, price per bottle or price per case based on how this item is packaged. And then the total cost, and then it breaks out fruit, wine, packaging, all through more of an Excel file. And you can currently see tax classes and bond. The next report is kind of our packaging report. So if we scroll down here to our packaging manufacturing report, we run it for, say, this month, and we generate it, this will show us our current packaging. Let me zoom in for you. So here is my non-vintage Chardonnay. You can see the bottles, back, front, cork, bottling fees. We bottled 8,000 cases, $138 a case. Let's scroll down to the wine that we bottled today. So here is my magnum of rosé. You can see it's just the wine. So then it's giving us our price of 120 magnums. So $7.85 per magnum. As we scroll down here to our rosé, again, your corks, your back labels, front. So front labels is pulling the 2,500 because I scrapped the other 40. So all 2,500 labels are getting applied cost-wise to this. And then the gallons and the bottling fee. So 205 cases, $72 a case. The next one is like stock movement. So this is showing any case movements that has happened. So this is both receiving and using. So you can see here based on in, out, or how it was used. So here are items that we received. So this is what we received on the 3rd. We received these corks, how many? Corks, bottles, labels. We packaged, so using up. And what it was used on, or what date, or how many we received up. So again, if you're wanting to track ins and outs of your inventory, this will do that here. And you can also choose, I just want to look at bottled wine. I just want to look at bottles. So again, having these categories, you can minimize. And then if you want to include cost, I forgot to do that, but check the box, include cost. Also, inventory summary report, making sure if you are wanting to see cost, you're checking that cost and that category you want to see, or not selecting any category, so you're seeing everything. We go to our government reports. If we do run our monthly TTB report for January of 2021, and then I generate, here will show our TTB report, and we dispatched out those 50 cases and 50 cases, and that will show on the TTB report. Someone did ask why this is loading. Do you need to insert where you're shipping it to? Yes, you do. You can choose to ship it to yourself. You can also choose to ship it to your tasting room, to your own warehouse. If you don't want to keep that inventory in vintrace, you can just ship it to yourself. So you can create yourself as that kind of customer. All right. Sorry, this is loading. Okay, so here is our TTV breakdown report. So make sure with bottling, we do have the second tab below, bottled inventory. And this will show, like here, my 20 rosé, my starting balance was 0. We bottled 47 gallons. And then if I keep scrolling down, here's our also 20 rosé here. You can see starting gallons was 0. We bottled 487. As I scroll across, you can see what was removed tax paid, anything that was transferred in bond. So you can double check any movements. And then closing balances and the net difference at the end of the month. And then as well as on your bottled wine, you can scroll across the top and see what was used for bottling and double check all of those match what was bottled for the month. If after you have shipped out, say, case goods, you're wanting to run a dispatch report through the 3 little dots. Under tools is the dispatch search. So you can say, show me everything I've dispatched for this month. Vintrace will list everything out. You can export this list out. And again, with it being a date range, you can say, show me last month, 3 months ago. And it'll show the date, the quantity, how it was removed. If you are saying who you're going to, it'll say dispatch to. If you are assigning, again, a carrier, any notes, tax date, was it removed, tax paid, transfer, and bond. If you need to reprint a bill of lading, this is also done from this screen as well. And so this is where you can print a bill of lading, and that will reprint that bill of lading, number 300, that included those items. Also, if you are sending, this a little bit side note, if you are sending bulk wine to another vintrace customer, this is where you want to be very nice and email them the e-ball. By emailing e-balls, this is sending them electronic bill of lading that the other wine can upload into their vintrace. So that will include the current lab analysis, additive history, and the composition breakdown. And if you want to see costing reports, you can click this to see that costing breakdown of this Chardonnay, the cases, price per case, the breakdown of those items. If you need to record lab analysis against current bottled wine, so if we bring up my 20 rosé, and say it's been 3 months, we want to add a lab analysis, we can go in and record an analysis against this wine. So do we want to record analysis against the Magnum or the 750? So I'm going to record a lab analysis against the 750s. What vintrace does is puts it back to a minute before it was bottled. So what we do recommend is on your analysis templates, you create one called 3 months post bottling, and then enter in what those analysis are. Say we didn't run that, just those 3, and then save. So now you'll have that against it. To go in and look at this wine, you can click on the bulk wine. And again, you want to look at the 750 wine or the Magnum wine, and it'll bring up that current wine. Okay. So that is kind of your bottling moving. This new icon we have is our kind of bulk wine, kind of batch explorer. This is keeping track of that you can see any current wine. So if I type in, say, 20 rosé, I can see currently for this 20 rosé, we have 1,800 gallons. 500 gallons of it was bottled, and the rest is in 4 tanks. If I click on this rosé, it will show currently the 4 tanks that rosé is in. And with my zoom, how many gallons each tank has. And then if I've dispatched any gallons, it would show me how many gallons I've dispatched, what date, what bill of lading number. And if I've bottled it, what different SKUs I've bottled and how many units I bottled. And up at the top, you can see gallons bottled, gallons dispatched, current gallons in tank. So this is a brand new feature. We are wanting feedback, what you guys would like to see, what else you like to see from here, but this is currently what our kind of batch explorer shows you. Kind of all the different stages of where this wine currently is, between costing, bottled, dispatch, and in production.